A very good morning to you. This is Off the Shelf. My name is David Batsoffen. His name is Rico, and we're chatting today about his new book, which has just been published by Jacana, Homework of National Unity. This is Stephen, Francis, and Rico, and it's Rico that joins me this morning. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning. Nice to chat again. Can you see me?
No, all of a sudden you've disappeared. It's gone to blinding white.
I haven't done anything.
Well, let's continue, and hopefully you shall return. Let's see what happens. Anyway, so tell me about the book, Rico.
Well, it's again once again another collection of cartoons, basically from August, sort of September last year to September to end of August this year, and it's
Right.
another look at another year of kind of the fun roller coaster that is South Africa.
Now, it's interesting for me because people, I think, if they're anything like me, actually forgot that there were elections in 2024.
You forgot?
That there were elections in 2024, the American ones.
Yeah. You mean our elections?
Yes.
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, time flies, yet it feels like it's been a very, very long year.
It has, and now, of course, it's bookended by both the South African and the American elections.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's an amazing circus, all of this. I mean, our elections were quite something, with the ANC getting a giant clap, except who would have thought everybody was going to vote, half the country wanted to vote Zuma back in. So that was we got a clap there. And then, they're kind of pulling the GNU out of the hat. Government of National Unity was quite something. And we'll see how it feels a bit like we're treading water now. I mean, it's sort of the same people still in, and we'll see where we go.
What is that like for a cartoonist, though? Were you hoping for somebody new that you could draw, or you have to draw the same old people for yet another 4 years?
I didn't think we were going to see new people necessarily. So, I mean, from an international point of view, we get Trump again. I mean, that's good. This is not a good déjà vu. I don't think, it's material, but it's not material you want necessarily. It's weirdly cyclical because we never seem to solve that much in South Africa. So it's the same issues over and over and over again. I mean, okay, we don't have load shedding. Now we've got water shedding in huge parts of the country.
Literally, so, it's going to 2025 will be a watershed year.
Yeah, don't joke.
There's the title of your book for 2025, and I want credit.
You'll be selling bottled water.
But let's get.
I mean, it's kind of, So it's kind of that you're kind of on the borderline of sanity shedding all the time. With all the things going on. It's like a double-edged sword. The curse of interesting times in a sense. It gives me to us cartoonists, it gives us material, but we'd wish life would be a little bit more normal. And
so
would work a little bit more.
Given the digital age we live in, and talking about digital age, you're back on camera. Just be aware. Talking about digital age, how come Homework of National Unity, and they're still using pen and paper to present their homework?
Well, because you can't feed your homework on an iPad to the dog.
You can have a darn good go at giving the dog a stick,
Yes, and a flash stick. Yes, no, that would just cruel. That would be like we'll have the SPCA knocking on our doors.
So, but
animal rights activists.
This seems to have been a theme throughout the year. The homework. Who came up with it? Is it you or is it Stephen?
I don't remember. I mean, it was many years back, and we kind of it was kind of a slight throwaway. I mean, it's a big cliche kind of thing, It became a throwaway thing for even I can't remember. I mean, I think it was kind of like worked into politicians' excuses as well. That even my dog ate my homework is a better excuse than most politicians could come up with why they might do the job. And it becomes like a running joke.
Yeah, this is the book we're talking about. It's out now. It's published by Jacana. It's called Homework of National Unity. A new Madam and Eve.
Yes, my copy too.
Okay. just just to prove that we both have. When you sit down, you and Stephen, to put this together, I take it it's a collaboration. And are there arguments around, I want this, no, I want that, no, we can't have either because? Or does it flow relatively easily and you sit down, you each put in however many cartoons and you go, yep, those are the ones we're going to use?
We actually use most of them for the year. We sort of drop about 20 in total, maybe 20,
right.
25. And often it's either you kind of like even a year later you sort of can't remember what that cartoon was because it was so topical and issue, and you can't remember what the cartoon was about. So you drop. And then some of them are we just no, is it that good? Isn't it? We just because we have a page limitation, obviously, and then. But most of the year's in. I mean, there's very few. The people what we think are the good ones. And
right.
Generally, no, we didn't have much of an argument about it because I think we're both kind of on the same page there.
Okay. Now I noticed that the kids on the cover of the book do have a badge on their t-shirt, on their shirts. It's obviously a school badge. Do you have those sort of viewers that go, let's see if we can deconstruct this badge, and was it from Stephen's past, or was it the school that Rico was expelled from, that type of stuff?
No, you're the first one. It's never come up. Tandy's uniform used to be like a more bluish color, and we changed it to the green because it felt more generic. I mean, it's a generic kind of, I mean, as the old would say, Model C type school, not fancy private, but suburban,
Was the dog ate my homework an excuse that either you or Stephen used?
Yeah, Stephen, his dog ate. Actually, Stephen didn't have a dog. So I don't have a dog either. So.
Somebody ate your homework, Rico.
Yeah, I ate. No, I think we get more creative with excuses, I guess. No, I mean, we generally deliver. We're kind of old hands at coming through on deadlines and things,
Yeah. What is it like? Are there days when you sort of wish that you could just go, ChatGPT, please draw me a cartoon that includes the following, and hand it over to them, and then sort of use that as the basis to move forward?
Don't bring AI up. It's a pet hate for its creators. I mean, AI is Satan to cartoonists and creatives. I mean, just for a joke, we did actually, I think Stephen tried just to have, ChatGPT when it came out, when it sort of broke earlier this year, tried to write some cartoons, and that made no sense whatsoever. I mean, humor and that kind of lateral creative thinking, I don't think ChatGPT isn't remotely capable of doing that. So it'd either be a rehash or a recycle of something, a confused recycling of existing ideas, or just complete nonsense.
I put in, I want a pangolin riding a leopard, and I got some weird science fiction type characters, with masks and shields and swords. Going, really? That's not what I had in mind at all. But anyway, obviously it wasn't used. Do you have a favorite cartoon in the books, Rico?
Not really. I mean, we kind of like, I had to look, it kind of varies. Every time I look at the book, I go, oh, this one was really cool. This one was fun. I mean, there's some that are more fun than others to do. And I think the one that actually really enjoyed and I got a good response was the one about the South African Olympic events. When they're...
Do you have a page number? Because
74.
74. Okay, so let's all go. Yes. Class, should we all turn to page 74? Those of you who have done your homework. Rico, why is your hand up? What do you mean the dog ate your homework? No.
Yeah, the dog ate my Madam and Eve book.
Where's your page 74? Why is it taking me so long to get there? 74 comes before 76. Ah, there we go. Those are the ones that you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah, those have come and gone as well.
And that one, ironically, is why I actually enjoy it, because what made it, in a sense, the humor is that last frame.
Yeah.
All the sports events, and the last frame squash, which he accidentally stepped on a Parktown prawn.
Parktown prawn.
Somehow that worked out.
Let's just see if we can get, there we go.
Yeah, there we go.
Because, funny you should mention Parktown prawns. They seem to have vanished. I haven't seen a proper Parktown prawn for several seasons now. I don't think the Hardy-Dars are that good at their work.
I think maybe they are. I mean, it might be. I don't know if there's pesticides around, but I think it's probably the Hardy-Dars. We had one last. They're probably. We had a couple last summer.
Okay.
What's making a sudden big comeback is like a rain spider in the house every day.
Oh, okay.
We have some seriously big boys here. That comes the Tupperware in the rescue mission.
Yeah, but we used to have one, and as long as it stayed high on the wall, sort of at the joint of the wall and the ceiling, then it was fine. If it ventured down, then the Tupperware came out, and it was replaced into the garden. I never kill those things. They are just so special. They really and truly are, and it's a big squish. So, is there now, seeing this particular book is Homework of National Unity, is there now going to be school holiday of national unity between now and January, where Rico and Stephen take some time off and just put down the pens and pencils and the drawing paper and go, I don't have to think of cartoons for X number of weeks?
There's sort of a quiet period between just before Christmas and then New Year's. We're often these days papers and things don't publish. A lot of papers and publications take breaks, so we have a short break. We work ahead for just the fillers that actually do that do come out. The sort of the little papers and then the digital stuff. But I think these days everybody's happy to take a break. And then then we can see, and then wait in the new year, when we start off with New Year's resolutions, and
I always do New Year's suggestions to myself, because then it's just a suggestion, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and I've never stressed myself because of it. New Year's resolutions put a whole different spin on things, and it causes early annual stress disorder. Forget PTSD. This is year on year.
Actually, I don't do a New Year myself. I don't do New Year's resolutions. I mean, it's fun to think about if any other people have. And these days you probably just pop it into Chat GPT. Give me some New Year's resolutions.
Come on, you've given me an idea for an article. Let's see what Chat GPT comes up with. But having said that, and we've mentioned, it's interesting that there seems to be only one AI software company, and that's ChatGPT. Or is it just being used as a generic? Like a fridge is not really a fridge. It was from Frigidaire, the brand, or a Hoover, for instance, or a vacuum cleaner. But with that in back of mind, do people who know you or who recognize you in the street come up to you and go, "Oh, I've got a great idea for a cartoon," and then you have to listen to a 20-minute explanation of what the cartoon is all about and why they think it's so good, and then you say thank you so much for your service and walk away?
Not in the street, and generally the rule of thumb is a cartoon that takes 20 minutes to explain is not a good idea.
That's why I specifically 20 minutes.
Yes. I mean, I have the equivalent on social media occasionally. People make suggestions to you, and some of them some of them can be sometimes quite hair-raisingly inappropriate.
People don't realize how difficult it is to get a cartoon spot on. What sounds like fun when you chat to somebody and everybody would laugh about what you said, and then you go, "Oh, that will make a nice slogan for a T-shirt type of thing." And then you realize you can't do that because you've got to then wear it out in public, and you can't. You know, what seems like a good idea, like vasectomy means never having to say you're sorry. A t-shirt I bought in 1978 in America. I don't know why. I never wore the thing. I eventually gave it to a friend who did a vasectomy. But you sort of go, it looked fun at the time, and I thought I could get away with it. Um, and I couldn't. I just couldn't bring myself to wear it in a public space. And I suppose there are cartoons like that as well.
There are cartoons like that, and there's sort of shifting sensitivities and just awareness. It's that old thing about that humor is you're punching up and not punching down.
Yeah.
That idea. So generally, and often those parameters change, and what is I know people go on about work and political correctness and all that kind of stuff. Generally, there's an extreme version of that, obviously, but generally there's a shifting mores in society where certain things you could make jokes about. Maybe it's not a good idea to do it now, just because our social mentality is different and our sensitivities are different, and it's actually not necessary. And often it is actually not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I mean, people then. People go, I can't tell the old racist jokes I used to be able to tell. That's a bad thing,
Yeah.
But there are things like, for instance, I mean, we had an idea recently, about with the guys on the side of the road with the signs and stuff, and unless we're making unless we're making a satirical point at the powers that be. We wouldn't, in the past, like occasionally we would have a bit of fun with that, but now we kind of think with the sort of the poverty going off the charts in South Africa and people struggling, post-COVID and all this, anything like, no, I mean, you got to sort of tailor that specifically to make sure that you're punching up with that joke.
Yeah.
I can't remember the specifics. It was in a discussion this last week, but it just reminded me of the fact that, that things are shifting and changing all the time. And, you just have to be aware of it.
Madam and Eve has been around for how long now?
Since 1992.
Okay, so it's pre the 1994. So it's what, over 30 years? Yes. I was hoping you were going to say it's 30 years. I can't do the math in my head.
32, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, 32
okay.
years,
it's like when you meet somebody and you recognize them, but you can't place them, and you go, "So, what are you doing with yourself?" Hopefully, hoping that they will say, "Oh, I'm still working at," which will give you, a foot up. And then they go, "No, same old," and it leaves you exactly where you were before. I have no idea who you are or why I've stopped to talk to you. With that in mind, then, with the changing mores in mind, things like LGBTQ, has that sort of come across your desk, if you know what I mean?
In passing, in a sense of the kind of the terminology, in a sense, that the sort of that it's become, LGBTQ is like half the acronym now. I mean, there's like all kinds of things added, and so in that respect, and in terms of the cartoons in general, no, we haven't. That's a good point, actually. We haven't actually touched on that. We kind of normalize these things in a sense that we don't. Unless there's an actual specific issue, we don't. It just
you're not going to use it just for using its sake.
Yeah. But it's just that in terms of things changing. You look back and we were making points. Some of the humor in the jokes from the early 90s and stuff. And you look at them and you wince a bit, in a sense that not necessarily because they're politically incorrect or something. It's just that, for crying out loud, so much is still the same.
Yeah.
We have the point made, like, why is Eve, still working as a domestic worker, for instance? Well, because the economic reality is you still have lots of domestic workers because, people have to do the work, need the work, do the jobs.
Yeah.
That's just the way things, and pretending it is not so, it serves nobody.
True. I would have hoped that Granny had, that Gogo had sort of gone to single malt rather than stuck with G&T, though. Would have been a nice evolution for the woman. Shame.
Well, we had to switch to vodka last week.
Did you? Oh,
We had to
that's
switch
right.
to vodka last week. Yes, yes, because our cartoon was hacked by the Russians. and, and it was such an off because I mean Stephen especially, we were so depressed by the whole Trump thing, and it was sort of topical. We had to come up with something that let's do something like off, off to the left or right,
Yeah.
and that popped in. We thought we could have a bit of fun with that, and readers actually loved it. So we were actually quite chuffed with that. I mean,
That was
the
going to be
Russian is courtesy to Google Translate. We take no responsibility for that.
When it comes to Google Translate, what I do is specifically into a language like that, I will put what I want into, let's say, Russian, and then I will put the Russian back in and say, translate back to English, just to make certain that what I put in at least has a similarity to what I want, because there's nothing worse than doing that and it actually says, could I have a hamburger and fries, please, where you wanted to make a political statement, which doesn't quite work.
Yes. Your grandmother wears combat boots.
You can start a whole nother revolution here, Rico.
I mean, I left it because it's part of the joke, it's so hokey. I mean, it's so cheesy, so it's part of, but there's a game you can play with Google Translate, is if you just run it back and forth about 10 times and see what you end up with the paragraph.
Guess what I'm going to be doing after we finish this morning?
The curse of too much free time.
Yeah, the mournful cry of the freelancer. What can I do when I don't have anything that I have to do? Are there cartoons that you or Stephen come up with that make the other one just fall off your chair with laughter, going, damn, I wish I'd thought of that? And then you produce it and it's exactly what you wanted it to be. The reaction from the readers, the reaction from the newspaper, everybody falls in line.
Yeah, I mean, to each other, we can never admit it.
Stephen, I hope you're watching learning.
It's always the kind of like, yeah, that's funny, that'll work, It's kind of, I mean, I always found it in the past when we still had worked in an office and actual brainstorm stuff, is often how little laughter there actually is in that kind of process, because it's kind of like, it's exactly that. Yeah, that's funny, that'll work, and every now and then somebody will laugh at something, but it's actually quite a weird, a sort of serious, writing comedy or kind of.
It's people don't realize that, Rico. It is very serious. It's almost like you have to ring a bell in the office when something makes you laugh. When people at a car dealership sell a car, then they ring a bell so that the rest of the staff go, oh, darn, Bob got the deal and I didn't, type of thing.
I mean, the example is that Russian cartoon in a sense, because it was, that they get hacked into the cartoon gets hacked by the Russians, Tandy, and everybody starts speaking Russian, and there was a couple of things that kind of weren't, and then there was these ideas of like where Mother Anderson goes, oh, Putin is #1 leader in the world, and then he goes like, what did I just say? And then you actually laugh at yourself when you think, oh, that actually really worked, and then the readers respond to, and quite, the world is different in a sense because you can get that instant response off, let's say, Daily Maverick, the readers' comments, or social media, I mean, the old days when we started, you maybe got a letter to the editor, a week or two later.
A week later.
The letter page,
Yeah.
I mean, that was a funny stat back then when the Star was still, 1 million copies a day kind of thing, big behemoth, And we were actually, the cartoon was in the what used to be the letters page.
Yeah.
We always wondered, it's an odd place to be. And I said, well, that was actually the third most read page in the newspaper.
Really?
So it would go front page, sports pages, letters page, and then everything else sort of slotted in underneath. So that was sort of back sports page was second most read, front page obviously, and for some reason the letters page and then that sort of editorial letter was it was the third most read page in the newspaper.
Wow.
So the comments section was always popular even back then.
And now, as you say, you put a cartoon on Facebook and bang, you've got people commenting instantaneously. But have there been comments that you've gone, oh, hang on a second, that, although it may look a bit left of center, that comment actually makes sense. And we've never had that response before.
It happens sometimes in a sense that you assume people know something you're talking about, and it's not in the cultural awareness. I
Right.
mean, we sometimes get. It's hard to think of an example, but sometimes we get some people sort of willfully misunderstanding the point of the cartoon, um, and kind of and sort of and hijacking it a little bit. We had an example recently where we had South African hurricane names,
Mm.
for and then Hurricane Cyril, doesn't even generate a mild breeze, and that kind of and it was obviously aimed at. I mean, it was hurricane season in America. It was aimed at South Africa. South African politics had nothing to do with the. And then we got one or two people going. This is disrespectful to people losing their homes in Florida
Yeah.
and all that kind of. And so that it can go off on tangent like that. But yeah, I mean, you kind of don't get too hung up on that, because unless you have a complete vicious backlash, and which doesn't happen to us because
Mm.
we know what we're doing in a sense of
Yeah.
what works and what doesn't.
Well, I mean, you guys have been drawing this for 32 years. You must know what you're doing. Otherwise, it would have slipped off a page somewhere long before now. But you talk about those sort of hijackings, Rico. Those happen so often now. You specifically on social, as I call it, anti-social media, because what happens is you put up a comment in innocence. And then, as you say, somebody goes off on a tangent about people in another country who have lost homes or jobs or whatever. And that wasn't your intention by any manner of means. And then that comment starts gathering traction, whether you like it or not. People then either side with or turn against whoever commented. And you go, there you go. Take some of your own medicine.
I think it's a kind of I've noticed that pattern every now and then that happens is not often, but every now and then it happens where it's a kind of a for want of a better expression, of virtue signaling in a sense. That
Right.
if there was that issue with the cartoon, you'd have fresh comments about that. You would have
Yeah.
a dozen people going, "Oh, this is a problem," but you have one person commenting and then 10 people agreeing with them. So it's like, if you understand what I mean. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
oh yes, I agree with your point and makes me and so.
Get a room, people.
I tend to, unless it's a straightforward query
Mhm.
to ask, I stay out of the comment section, let that basically sort of sort itself out in a sense,
They
and then you don't,
usually
and then
do
every now
if
and then
you.
you get somebody selling penis enlargements or crypto or stuff, and then we block and drop those people. But but generally our audience is well behaved, I think.
It sounds like it, but as you say, if you leave them alone, they eventually go away because they're looking for engagement, good, bad, or indifferent. And if you
Hmm.
don't engage them, then they can't continue. And as you say, it just peters out, and a day or so later, people have forgotten about them until your next cartoon, which ticks a box or not.
Yes, yes. And it's a kind, and it's always, it's always a new. I mean, there's always, like I said, it's not quite forgotten the next day, but it's always a fresh cartoon, and
Yeah.
then you get to the point where I can't remember what was on 2 weeks ago. I have to go back. It's done so many.
With with the American elections down and dusted, and I know that Madam and Eve is very South African, but there are still the naysayers and the ooh-ahs and the left and right and centrists who are going, oh, if only we had. Is it going to feature come January when he steps up to the podium once again and puts his hand on the book and says, I'll try and get it right this time, or is he just going to swear in a bucket of chicken and go, let's move forward?
Let's see what happens. I mean, it's kind of like, I mean, the sort of the scary clown show of the weird appointments has started, and let's see what
Yeah.
happens. It's kind of like, I think during the elections and that whole process, we kind of, in some ways, while that whole process was happening, that whole campaign circus in America. I mean, actually, South Africans cared not that much.
Mm.
Once the elections happened, yes, there was kind of, but it's kind of weird. What is there to say in a sense? I
Yeah.
mean, there's certain comparisons with some of our Zuma and Trump are quite similar in certain ways, but we'll see what happens. What happens, with the inauguration next year. Yeah.
Now, for you, you're the pen and ink behind Madam and Eve. Stephen knows the words. Has there been, if you're a fisherman or a hunter, there's always that one that got away. Oh, it would have been this big if I'd caught it, or the horns would have been that long. Is there a cartoon, in retrospect, Rico, that you missed an opportunity and now it's too late because it was topical then, and you look back on those times, or the archives of cartoons you have from that time, and you go, if only I had drawn X?
Not really. Because you kind of, like I said, we just kind of generate. Often if we think that, we go, oh, we can still do it.
Yeah.
if it's soon enough.
Nobody knows what you're talking about, but
Yeah,
we'll do a cartoon.
But generally, no. I mean, you just move on. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't. The old. We don't cry over satirical spilled milk, as you.
The book we've been chatting about is Homework of National Unity. It's published by Jacana. It's available now. It makes great Christmas or bar mitzvah gifts, or even if a friend's getting divorced and they're feeling miserable, give them the book. It'll cheer them up, or not. They'll lose it in the divorce. They'll buy a second copy. It's all good for Rico and Stephen. Rico, as always, it's great to chat to you. Thank you so very much for joining me here off the shelf.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
My guest today on Off the Shelf has been Rico. We've been talking about his new book together with Stephen. Francis, Homework of National Unity. Go out and get it today. If you are a fan, you won't be disappointed. If you've never read one of their cartoons, I suggest you get the book and brush up, because there will be questions asked. There will be a pop quiz, and you can't say, the dog ate my homework. From David Batsoffen, until the next time Off the Shelf, thanks for joining me.